Old Town Public Library staff for this opportunity for us to make a trip north. I live just outside Portland. Dave lives between Portland and here, and to talk a little about our book. For me, Penobscot County has always been home. I've lived since 1990 in Cumberland County, but I was born and I grew up in Lincoln, just north of here. Penobscot County has always been home. I remember as a kid, we did a lot of our shopping in Bangor. Many of you who may have been around at the time may recall the old Sears and Roebuck on Harlow Street. I see nods. That's where I did all my school shopping. I got all my school clothes for years. I remember the Zayres, Kresge's in the one shopping center that existed in town at the time. And we always came through Old Town. We called it the old way. We didn't like to take the highway as much. We went the old way. And as a little kid, and you're gonna remember this, those of you from the area, one of the thrills for me to come the old way was driving across the Singing Bridge, which was just out here, as I recall, basically going from the island into the downtown. And so I have a lot of memories of this area. My father went to UMaine, my sister went to UMaine, so I spent a lot of time in the Old Town Orono area, and again, absolutely thrilled to come back to my home space to talk to you about a project that I personally invested about 2 years in, as did my writing partner, and just very honored to have an opportunity to share our work and tell you some stories today. I guarantee 3 things today. I guarantee at some point you're going to laugh. You're going to hear something ridiculous. I guarantee that you're going to cry. You're going to hear something sad. And I guarantee that you're going to think. It's going to think back, and it's going to hopefully spark some of your thoughts about a time that the COVID era that we will never forget. I'll let my writing partner Dave Ead introduce himself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much again for having us. My name is Dave Ead. I've been at WGME Channel 13 in Portland for, it'll be 30 years in January. But I was in Bangor briefly at WVII TV back in 1991, 92-ish. So, and I've got actually some family in the Brewer area. So Maine is always, it's been family to me for a very, very long time. Gary and I have known each other for a very long time, and again, no one saw the pandemic coming. It kind of hit us all out of the clear blue, and when things started to shut down, we were talking moments ago, it was almost like a domino effect, like one thing would close and then everything would trail. And it was really, I mean, to say it was a tough time for everyone would be a huge understatement. It was, for Gary and I, you know, it was different, but it was similar, because my job was to cover local sports. And how do you do that when there's no local sports? And then the communication was really, really minimal at best. So Gary was my lifeline, because he was involved with the MPA, and he was in on the meetings, and when we just tried to get the information out to the public as best as possible. It was a very challenging time for me. I was the guinea pig at Channel 13. So they had sent me home with my phone, a little tripod, and there was an app on my phone where it would broadcast live. It was called a live view on my phone. And it was, I said, what do you want me to do with this? Because I'm not a big, computer guy or anything. And luckily my kids were home, so they could help me out a little bit. But so I went along with it, and ultimately they upgraded me with a camera. And that is our living room. That's a fireplace. And the TV set we would have, every night I'd put the GME logo on there. So that would, when you're watching the news, you see that logo or teams, in the background. But I'm fully dressed and I have my LL Bean slippers on. That's the only thing. I didn't have shoes. I had my slippers. But it was such a surreal time. And I say this all the time, and a lot of the audience doesn't know what I'm talking about, but I think you will, because we're all kind of around the same age. The only thing missing was seeing Rod Serling in my living room, because it was really a Twilight Zone moment. One of the quick stories I'll share, I had an IFB in, and that allowed me to listen to the producer. And I had my microphone on, and so they could hear me. And they would tell me, okay, 30 seconds, you got a minute, whatever. And there was one night, everything was fine. Kids were sleeping, my wife was sleeping, everyone was sleeping. It was about 10:45. All of a sudden, I'm not hearing them. And I know in the ballpark, there's about a minute to go. My batteries in my IFB thing were dead. So now I'm fumbling around. It's dark because the lights are just on me. I go in the drawer, pull out a couple of double A's. Now the clock is ticking, and I'm like, they can't hear me, so they're gonna pull sports at this point. And I remember getting a pen, a ballpoint pen, and trying to get the batteries out, and it went right into my finger. And it was like there was blood all over my scripts, and
Just a flesh wound.
it was a flesh wound, yeah. And I remember, now I got my scripts wrapped around my finger, so I don't even know what I'm reading at this point. And they said, do you hear us? Do you hear us? And I'm like, yes. Go ahead, I'm ready. So anyway, but it was those kind of challenges every night. And I was covering disc golf, because that was one of the sports that was still going on. I remember real golf, they had something with the, where you put the ball in, but it was a certain, you pulled the ball out with a cup holder, and it was just a really different time. And I remember saying to Gary, when this is over, and it will be over at some point, we gotta write a book. Because I don't think people 15, 20, 30 years from now are gonna believe what just happened. Not in the year of 2020, when we're sending rocket ships to the moon. How can a virus shut down the world? But it did.
And thank you, Dave, and we'll actually go back here, just talk a little bit about my story. You've heard about where I come from. My career has been spent in education. I retired in June 2024 after 41 years, primarily working in secondary schools. I taught and coached at Mananoc Academy, where I graduated from high school in 1979 for 3 years. I moved to Southern Maine in 1990. I was at Bonne Eagle High School in Standish, which is a very large school, a district that has 4 communities in it. I was there from 1990 through 2007. That's where Dave and I met, actually on a football field. One night he was covering a game where we had brought in portable lights to illuminate a secondary field we were using that season. I had the worst case of laryngitis ever. I was a horrible interview. I
was probably standing right about here during a live interview, and I'm usually a lot closer, but Gary was really sick.
But that's where we met, and as Dave mentioned, our connection, mostly it's been sports reporter, and I was coaching, and I was an athletic director for 28 years at Bonne Eagle, then Thornton Academy, where I retired last year. So we've spent a lot of time together. And as he mentioned, a lot of our connection during the early months of COVID was me feeding news to him, okay? What was going on in the state? What was the latest verdict from the Maine Principals Association? What was the State Department of Education saying? What was the Maine Department of Health and Human Services saying? Because we're all trying to figure this out together. And while we're doing it collectively, we're also in our own communities trying to figure out things as well. I really envied you folks here in Penobscot County. You may recall back in the fall of 2020, as schools are being brought back in session, okay, that the state of Maine had a color-coded map, and it was connected to what you could do educationally, but also athletically. Every county in the state was given a color code. Green meant you could do in-person learning as long as you were socially distanced. You could also do athletics as long as you followed the rules that had been set up. Red meant neither of the above. You are learning on computers. You are remote, no athletics. Yellow, you could do the in-person learning socially distanced, but no athletics. I live in Cumberland County. Cumberland County was in the green pretty much the entire time, just as was Penobscot. And just about everybody else but York County, which is where I happen to work. Thornton Academy is in the southernmost county, 5 miles from the Cumberland County line, okay? But while kids to the north in Scarborough and South Portland and those communities, kids to the west at Bonnie Eagle, which by the way, the county line crosses their football field, we were in the yellow, which meant we had no athletics whatsoever. So I'm dealing not only with the idea that trying to figure out this whole pandemic sports thing, but like I've got to try to assure a community, a group of kids, a group of coaches that there's going to be help soon. And the truth be told, just as Dave mentioned, as he is literally fumbling to try to figure out how to broadcast sports, in a totally different way, we were having to do athletics in a very different way as well. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. The only clue we had when we started was this photograph. That was really the first piece of evidence the state of Maine had to figure out how do we bring back sports. This photograph was taken in 1918. In 1918, that was the era of the Spanish flu pandemic. And the reason it had a name Spanish flu was that we later learned that the nation of Spain was the one country that was reporting its statistics accurately. Everybody else is just trying, I think they're more in denial. But this photograph was taken at a Georgia Tech Furman football game in Atlanta, okay, in 1918. And it's an interesting photo because number one, there's a gentleman up here in the upper right-hand corner who has got a bottle of soda, okay? I'm guessing it was Coca-Cola since Coke is bottled in Atlanta. But he might have brought in a rogue Pepsi, I don't know. But you got this guy drinking sort of mask down, which we were being told as coming, if you go to events, you should have your mask on. You can remove it to drink or to eat something. We have a doughboy here, a World War I soldier, either heading to Europe, coming back from Europe, but he most likely was stationed at Fort Benning, which was the epicenter of the Spanish flu pandemic in the United States. In fact, the Boston Red Sox were actually did an exhibition game in 1918 in April at Fort Benning. They're on their way back to Boston after spring training. They did a game there, and the Red Sox best player, Babe Ruth, the Bambino himself, before he goes to the Yankees, catches the Spanish flu virus at his home in Massachusetts. Just outside of Sudbury, Mass, where he lived. He was on his deathbed for 3 days. He almost died from this. But this is the only thing we have. Like, how does sports happen in a pandemic? And I know I was sort of reassured, coming into this when we're told, okay, people have to wear masks when they participate, fans have to wear masks. Everybody is going to behave like this. Everybody is going to follow the rules. Even the guy with the Coke is following the rules. That's allowed. This is not what we saw. This is not what we saw at all, okay? We had a whole new world. This is my office at Thornton Academy. One of the things I realized was we had to have certain equipment to run our sports with once we were able to get back, once we turned green, which by the way was on Columbus Day weekend. We had only 4 weeks left to go in the season. We missed half of it already. In fact, we didn't have our last week because we had an uptick in cases at Thornton Academy, which has 1,400 students. And our headmaster closed down in-person learning until the new year. So we had 3 weeks. But one of the things we had to do was we had to have the tools to give to our coaches. So I went to the Dollar General at Old Orchard Beach. Cody, you told me you have an Old Orchard link. You were a cheerleader there, right? You mentioned. But went to the Dollar General at Old Orchard Beach because I could do it very cheaply, obviously. For $1 a bucket, I bought buckets, one for each team. Our school nurse, Debbie Prescott, gave me more hand sanitizer than I could ever imagine. At the same Dollar General, I found some paper bags, because we were told that you need to have individualized paper bags for kids to put their masks in, okay? To keep everybody's masks sanitized. And there was face masks, all sorts of stuff in these. And that's what we handed to our coaches and to use. If you want to go another one, Dave, thank you. This is Eric Marston, our cross-country coach. This is a cross-country practice very early when we came back. And I met with each of our groups of kids, and I told them, this is going to be an unusual time for us. This is going to be a very different time for you. We're going to ask you to do some things that may be uncomfortable, different, but we're going to do them. Because my goal for you is, number one, to compete. I'll do anything I can to help you compete. And my other goal is that you can complete your season. We were able to compete for 3 weeks. We weren't able to complete. This cross-country team was probably the best cross-country, especially on the boys' side, was probably the best cross-country team we had at Thornton in years. You're going to hear about another cross-country team a little bit later that was better than us. But this was the best team we'd had in years with a chance to go to the state championships. We only had 2 meets and we looked good. And our coach, Eric Marston, was excited about what we could do. The young man in blue, Simon Gellis, had won a York County meet, which was a qualifier for the states. And he was our guy. He had a chance, we thought, to maybe be in the top 10 in the state. But as we'll learn later, that got derailed. Okay? That same, this was from the very last day of the season. It was a Saturday in November. I had 2 events going on that day. I had an outdoor volleyball match. We weren't allowed to play in the gym. We could play it outdoors without fans. And what was interesting was there were parents who were in the parking lot, which was probably about a quarter mile away, standing on their roofs watching this outdoor volleyball match with binoculars so they could watch their kids participate. Some of them may have been arguing some of the line calls. I don't know how they could see the lines from there, but whatever, they're fans. But we had this game with Biddeford, our big rival, brought them over. It was a beautiful day. As you said, this is November. It was like about this time of year, actually, maybe just a little bit ahead. And here we are trying to play soccer in Mass. And as you see, number 24 in Biddeford is doing it correctly. Hadley Stoddard, who now is an outstanding soccer player at Maine Maritime Academy. She was all conference this year. Hadley always obeyed the rules. My niece Lily LeBlanc right there. Lily is a rebel. Lily's not obeying the rules, okay? Even though her uncle tried to tell her what to do, but this is the world we are in. It was something very, very different, okay? Transportation was different. Anybody who took a school bus in that era remembers that you could only have, normally it was 1 per seat. If you were related, if your brother, sister, family members could sit together. The windows had to be down. Thank goodness it was a nice fall. Windows had to be down for ventilation. But this is Brewer High School. Dave Utterback, the athletic director over at Brewer, Dave used to work here at Old Times, baseball coach for a while. Dave shared this picture with me of a Brewer team going to an event. Now, of course, you can only have 1 seat, and hopefully you can have some siblings that you can pair up to get more kids on. You're going to have limited numbers of kids you can take on a bus, which implies either A, more expense because you're going to need more buses, or less participation because you're only going to have so many people on a bus. We did what we had to do. Sometimes we shuttled, okay? The busing was crazy. Just a quick story. When we got back to a little more normal play in 2021, I had a girls basketball team that was, again, we were trying to rebound. We'd had a rough time in girls basketball, and we were doing well in this COVID season. We were undefeated. We had a young team. We're very excited. And we're playing at Bonnie Eagle, the district where I live, 12 miles, whatever, away from the school. We had a JV team there. The bus comes back to get the varsity. We're just shuttling players back and forth. I'm driving home that night. I had no home games. I'm not going to be allowed to watch my own team play in that gym. And I get a call from the athletic director at Westbrook High School, who's in our league. We had been at Westbrook the week before in a game. And he says, Gary, I've got some bad news. We have a girl on our team who has tested positive for COVID. And we had played them. Our varsity team had played them. Now, I called up my school nurse. I knew what the answer was going to be. I'm on my way home. Actually, I pulled into my driveway. I got the news about probably 0.2 of a mile from my driveway. I pull into my driveway, turn off the car. I'm talking to the school nurse. Debbie, what do I need to do? She goes, number 1, Gary, you got to turn that bus around. None of those kids, if they played against Westbrook, fact, not only are they not playing tonight, they're going to be out of school 2 weeks. That was the reality. I said, well, Debbie, I know that there are 3 kids that play both varsity and JV, that they're in that gym right now. You got to get them off the court. You've got to get a quarantine them. Okay. Now, I'm getting out my phone numbers, what have you. My wife is looking through the kitchen, like, what is he doing out there? I was out there 45 minutes trying to negotiate this weird situation. So I call up the athletic director at Bonn Eagle named Eric Curtis. Eric's a Bucksport guy. Eric, I've got an odd thing I've got to ask you. What's that, Gary? Numbers 11, 12, and 14, you have to tell my coach they have to come out of the game and go out in the hall. What? Trust me. That's what we had to do. And then you have to go on top of that, have to go back, communicate to parents, this is going on, this is what we have to do, and which is not always pleasant, making those calls, writing those emails. And then these people who had a season that was going great get shut down, okay? The craziest bus trip, of course, I had to call the coach. He was almost to Bonn Eagle, turned the bus around, guess what, your season is over. It was a time like that for us in the high school world.
Yeah. Back to the LL Bean slippers.
Yeah.
So
I'll do it if you want.
I want to say it was right around St. Patrick's Day 2020, I was sent home for 15 months. And, you know, one of the things I have 2 kids, and I always impress upon my kids is that regardless of any situation, as bad as it is, if you look close enough, you can find a silver lining. So for me, it just so happened my wife was battling stage 4 cancer at the time. She came down with stage 4 lung cancer. She never smoked a day in her life. This is in 2014. So Lisa was on the downs. In 2020, she was kind of going down. Ironically, we both got COVID in November of 2020. The real COVID. I mean, when I say real COVID, there were no vaccines. She was going to Mass General, so Mass General at the time was the hub for, you know, the COVID treatment, and she was getting chemo. And long story short, we both got it. She actually did better than me. But women are much tougher. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. But for me, I was able to be with her every day and watch her and care for her and help her. So that was the silver lining, you know, that I took away from this whole experience.
She took this photo, Dave, and is credited in our book.
She is, yeah, she took that photo. She never missed a 6 o'clock sportscast. She would sit on the rocking chair, parallel to me, and she would always watch, and regardless of how bad it was or how good it was, she always said, you had a great show. So, #1 fan. So Danielle, my daughter, who now works in cancer research at Mass General, went to Holy Cross. She was captain on the Kent Hill basketball team. Now that is not her senior year, but that's just a photo of my daughter dribbling up the, okay, so senior year, Kent Hill doesn't play at all. They have no games, canceled the whole thing. There was a group of athletic directors in central Maine, Joel Stoneham,
From Winthrop.
at Winthrop,
Yeah.
who got together and really wanted the kids to have something. So they came up with this makeshift tournament, and again, this is not MPA sanctioned. This was just to give the kids a little something to do. Maranacook boys at the time had the team, maybe of the decade. They weren't, you know, they were going to play in this tournament. Kent Hill, my daughter's team, they weren't that very good, but they were asked to, you know, to play, and RJ Jenkins, the coach, said absolutely want to give the kids a chance to play. So they played in this one game against Halldale, the team that won it all the year prior before COVID, and the Huskies
They're beaten up too, Dave.
Yeah.
They're thin in numbers. But
their best player was on crutches. Actually was in a boot. Our center, But there's my daughter right there. They kind of knew they were going to get shellacked pretty good, but the kids were happy. They just wanted to play a game. And so they go into the gym. Now there's no fans allowed. And there are cardboard cutouts of fans. And I don't know if my well, we had a cardboard cutout there somewhere, me, Drew, Danielle, and Lisa. But they ended up playing this game against Halldale. And I truly believe in fate. So they're losing by, Gary, I never got the number, 23, 25?
It's around 25.
Yeah, about 9 seconds to go in the game. And
You want to watch it?
yeah,
We
watch
can
it.
watch what happens. Okay.
About 9 seconds to go in the game.
One thing I would add again from the AD's point of view, again, he's a sports commentator. He's a journalist. I'm a school person. You might notice also it was part of the deal with COVID protocols. We got back inside. We had to have our seats. Those are the benches, and there were some in front. We had to have the seats socially distanced. You had to sit in your seat. Every student was assigned a seat. And if you played a varsity and JV back, we had to clean them all. We had to disinfect them. And that was the way every gym, and we stole that from the National Basketball Association, who had done the same thing.
Wow. So I'll just kind of give you a little bit of context. There's 10 seconds left in the game. Kent Hill's getting blown out. My wife and I are watching it on a live feed. I'm getting ready for my show. It's about 5:50 at night on a weeknight. I'm getting ready for the broadcast, and we're watching it. And at the time, I had no idea. Only God knew. But that was the last time my wife got to see her.
And Dave, it was, you see on the bottom here, the score was 64 to 39. Whoops. Uh-oh.
Is there a back arrow?
Well, I've been told that we have to.
Palisade Hybrid versus Grand Highlander Hybrid.
Probably not.
With the Palisade.
Always have the ads. Yeah, this is a sort of a different type of screen I'm used to using, so let's try this again here.
So as we're watching it, I'm saying, and I knew that was her last game, get her the ball, get her the ball. She was a pretty good three-point shooter.
Yeah. I don't think no, with Frankie Valley in the 4 seasons. I guess.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Frankie Valley either.
If you can help me out, Cody, that'd be great, because I think it'd be great if we can watch this video.
This happens to me all the time. It's called technical difficulties.
Well, yes. So we need to somehow get back to the video we were on and play it. I don't know. I have to go all the way over here.
Hybrid, you can get all this.
But a flourish at the
Yeah,
end
there we
for
go.
Kent Hill, who really impressed in how they battled today. Coming in with 6 players overall,
I
having
think
not
that's
played a game all season. Final score, 65-42. They lost by
All right,
23.
let's drag this back a few seconds. Perfect.
Yeah. So someone creates a foul, makes a foul, and now there's a girl on the line, and that's my daughter right there, number 4. So go ahead and play.
It's 64-39. Not going to win this.
Game's over.
Fouls a second on Josie Harper Cunningham.
But we're gonna get the ball back.
Starts the line.
Taking her time.
He gets another. And I know some opponents might say, why are you still trying to score?
That's Danielle, number 4, right, Dave?
28 seconds
That's
to
her.
go. But, Greenhouse is a freshman. She needs these opportunities. And that was a great take. I would be playing this out myself. One more possession for Kent Hill. Ending with a 3. Well, that's a way to cap it off for the senior.
At the
Last shot will
buzzer.
take it. Huskies uniform. What a way to go out on that 3-point bomb by
So
Daniel
the
Lee.
shot didn't mean anything.
Bulldogs
You
with
know,
the
in
win, but a
whole grand
flourish at
scheme
the
of
end
things,
for
but
Kent Hill, who
for us, it was. So that I told Gary that story, and I had no intentions of putting that in the book. I didn't think about it because it was a family thing. And he said, "Do you mind if I interview Danielle?" I said, "You can interview her all you want and do whatever you want with it." But that was, that was the part that we all have stories like that.
Yeah. Now, we're going to actually tell you a few more of those stories, Rich. I think the theme will hit you more than once here today. This is my office for 17 years. This is Hill Stadium, Maine Thornton Academy. A great athletic tradition. They're actually playing for the state championship against Portland. Please cheer for them this weekend down in Portland. But Dave and I actually started talking about this book on this field right here. And as we, the book, our first meeting, we only had 2 meetings. We only met in person twice. Most of our work was done through email and phone. And we met at the Biddeford Panera. A lot of good things happened at Panera.
Yes.
And we started jotting down ideas. One of the things we were talking about was, what do we do for a cover? We had to talk, what are we going to do for a title? We actually changed the subtitle at one point. The original subtitle was How COVID Crippled Maine Sports, but we changed it How Maine Survived COVID-19 pandemic.
Just turned it right around.
Right. But
made it more positive.
I said to Dave, you know what I would love to have for the cover? Hill Stadium is where we conceived the book, okay? My marketing is also thinking I might be able to sell more to some Saco Thornton people, okay? They might think it's about Thornton. It's partly about Thornton, not a lot. But I said, I'd love to have it on an empty field, nothing going on, at sunset.
Yeah.
The idea that the sun is coming down, okay? And Joe, you can talk about Joey, who you hired to do this picture, and the neat story behind this photo.
Yeah, we had to get a crane to go through the uprights. And Joe was calling me. Now, when the sun, you can't tell the sun, call and say, "Hey, sun, stop moving. We're angling our shot." So Joe needed some cloud cover.
Yeah.
And Joe would ask Lisa, my wife.
Yeah. Well, the clouds were covering the sun altogether.
Yeah.
And
he needed the sun to poke through.
And he prayed to Lisa.
And he did, and he got the shot. And the symbolic nature of the shot is just the sun setting on Maine sports. And it's just that desolate, there's no one there. Usually a stadium that's bustling with kids and noise and sounds and cheering and whistles. There was nothing. And that was what we wanted for the cover.
And the interesting thing is that when you think about the sun, unless we told you the story, you don't know what time of day that was taken. It couldn't have been taken in the morning. Mm-hmm. When the Constitution was signed, I was a history teacher, by the way. When the U.S. Constitution was signed, they asked Benjamin Franklin. He was 81 years old. He was the sage of that group. Can we make this document work? And his comment was, I'm looking at the chair on the back of President George Washington. He was the president of the Constitutional Convention. I'm looking at the chair that he's sitting on, and there was an etched out sun, part of a sun. He goes, for us, this could be a rising sun or it could be a setting sun. He said, I'd like to think it's a rising sun. So the sun did set on Maine sports, but our book tells how the sun rose again.
Again, yeah. It went from setting to rising again and finding our way through the dark times.
Yeah. We covered a lot of topics in this book. We did the professional teams in Maine. The only professional team we couldn't get any help out was the Maine Celtics. They were the Red Claws. We have the Portland Sea Dogs, Maine Mariners. We have a lot of University of Maine content in there. We talked to people from the Division III, the smaller colleges. Husson is prominent in the book. The community colleges like Southern Maine Community College, Central Maine, a lot in the high school world where I lived, and then some other topics that were connected. So there are a lot. This is a collection of stories, and what we want to do is give you 3 more stories, if you don't mind. Want to hang with us here a bit, and we're going to the pro world first, with probably my wife's favorite story in the book. She sells the book for me and tells the story. So she's sold copies with this story. It may be our most unusual story. I'm not saying our best story, but it is so bizarre. And this is the best guy to tell that story.
Well, so up here, Ben Guite is a well-known hockey player. He was one of the greats at the University of Maine. So Ben was the coach. Actually, Ben was was the assistant coach at Maine during the pandemic, but he took a job with the Maine Mariners, the professional team in Portland. And that is a picture of Kelty. Kelty was one of their top players, really kind of a rising young star. Now this is the East Coast Hockey League, so it's NHL, AHL, and then the ECHL. So he's in that third tier. But the kids all have a dream of playing in the NHL. That's why they're there, you know. So Mariners are in action. They're still testing. There's still COVID, but they got back to playing hockey. So they're on their way to Trois-Rivières, Three Rivers up in Quebec, and Kelty tests positive for COVID. So they isolated him in a hotel.
He's what, 19 years old?
Yeah, 19 years old. Isolated in a hotel. Mariners go and play the game.
And they won. With 13 guys.
With 13 guys, they won the game, which is a miracle. I mean, in pro hockey. The bus leaves. Kelty's still in Three Rivers. Bus leaves for Portland. So Ben's like losing his mind. Ben is one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my life. So Ben, they get back to Portland. It's like 5 a.m. He outfits his SUV. He went to Kmart and got like a shower curtain and put it in the back of the SUV, and went right back up to Three Rivers to get his player. He gets Kelty. They're both masked up. They're leaving the hotel.
This is Kelty's view, by the way. It's hard to see.
So the windows are rolled down. Now picture December, Quebec. It's not, it's not 75 and sunshine. And they had the windows rolled down. He had the heat cranked on. They go to customs, and they literally, customs was like, get out of here, just go.
The great Olay.
Yeah, the Olay, send him in. They drove through a blizzard. They had to go the back way to Portland, or the alternate route through Vermont, and they, battled through a blizzard. They made it back to Portland. I don't know how Ben did it on coffee, but he had a lot of coffee that day. And they finally got to Portland, and Ben and his wife made Kelty dinner for 14 days, because that was the, you're isolated for 14 days, and they left it outside his apartment door every day, and he spent his Christmas that way. And again, that was just another story that we kind of stumbled upon as we were gathering. We thought we were just going to have, about the hurdles and this and that, but and Roger's stories, amazing. We'll tell you about that in a moment. But that was just one story of a coach, his player, and how they managed to get out of one country, come back to another, and make it through. It was, and this kid's away from his family. He's a young kid and everything. So there's obviously a lot more to that story that's in the book, but that was one of our favorites to tell, and it really had nothing to do with hockey when you think about it. It had more to do with compassion and caring and taking care of one another.
And Kelty Jerry Leone is still in the minor leagues. He's not reached the NHL yet, but Dave and I have made him a promise.
Yeah.
If he gets the call, we're going to be there.
We're going to be there.
We're going to be there for that debut. So
Yeah.
we stay in touch with him. And he was from British Columbia. So his parents could not come to Maine for Christmas. He was all by himself. And as you mentioned, Ben and his wife were very just. And Ben is still involved in hockey now with Bowdoin College.
Bowdoin College, yeah. He's the head coach at Bowdoin, and again, University of Maine fans to follow hockey. Ben Guite, he's a Hall of Famer. They're up there for life.
Yeah. Speaking of the University of Maine, one of our collegiate stories involves a very interesting one involving the University of Maine baseball team. And the spring of 2020, when the pandemic is starting to hit us, Nick Durba, who was and still is the head baseball coach at the University of Maine, is very concerned about the culture of his team. He actually has gone off to a trip in the Midwest. They were 1-12. They struggled badly. He's got some good young players. He's got some seniors that maybe they're checking out, what have you, and he's got to try to find a way to turn this around. In fact, they were headed to play a conference game at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, which is in Maine's league. They get as far as Topsom, Maine. They're on 295 when the word comes down that Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA at the time, is closing down NCAA sports. They have to turn the bus around and come back to Orono. For one young man in particular, this man here, Jake Reynes, he's a freshman at the University of Maine, originally from Maryland. He's going home. He's going to basically his home area. He did a prep year at Bridgeton Academy in Maine, loved Maine, comes to the University of Maine. During that 13 games, he's become the starting shortstop, and he wants to. He has goals of playing professionally, and he's just getting his career underway. But he was also excited about the trip to Maryland. His grandfather, who was terminally ill, originally from Williamsport, Pennsylvania, was on one of the original Little League teams, and that's of course the home of Little League World Series. On one of those first teams to play in a Little League World Series, his grandfather is going to get to watch him play collegiately for the first and only time. The game doesn't happen because he turned around and tops him. And he never does get to see Jake play. But Jake and one of his buddies, Joey Bramante, when I interviewed him, I said, is it Joe or Joey? He goes, I'm more of a Joey than a Joe. So I got a picture of what this guy's like. Big teddy bear, power hitter, home run hitter. He lives just outside Boston. These two guys are buddies, they're roommates. And they decide, even though the college is shut down, even though there's no more baseball season, they're going to hang out in this area. They had an apartment somewhere in Orono, Old Town, what have you, and they're going to train. They go over to the university. They decide they're going to practice on the field, and the university officials say, "You can't play here. You can't be on this field. It's our field. No, you're trespassing." So they're told you have no place to practice. Well, one of their teammates, who happened to be from Bangor, had a girlfriend who knew a guy that had a barn in Bradley, Maine. Everybody here knows where Bradley is. It's not far from here at all. Brad Goody was the head baseball coach at Old Town High School at the time, landscaper, and he had a barn. It was the family home. His dad actually had built this barn, and when Brad was little, the question was, do we have an indoor horseshoe pit or a batting cage? Brad wanted the batting cage. His dad liked horseshoes. The horseshoes went out. It comes time when he takes over the family property, he's going to build a batting cage for his kid. So rumor got around about this batting cage. And the UMaine players, Joy Bramante, Jake Reynes, they reach out. Can we come over and play, practice at your barn? It's almost like Field of Dreams with Shoeless Joe Jackson. Can we come on to the cornfield? It's almost the same thing. Sure. And every day, can we bring this guy? Can we bring that guy? And that's what happened. So for the next several months, they spent a lot of time in this barn. There's an indoor batting cage, some false artificial turf. This is what it looks like. For them, it was gold. It was everything. So one place they had a chance to play. There's Brad's little guy. This was built for him. He's going to have his turn. And there's a guy who had played at UMaine the year before. He actually been the shortstop that Jake Reynes replaces, who has gone into professional baseball. A fellow by the name of Jeremy Pena. Jeremy's minor league season is canceled. And he learns about this. He calls these guys, say, I've heard you guys are working out, you Maine players, my former teammates, and obviously the newcomers, you're working out at this barn in Bradley. Can I join you? Sure. So Jeremy Pena comes up and trains with them. And it's important for the UMaine players because they have a professional player, he's polished, he understands how to work out, he understands goal setting, and he's not only just a guy working out with them, but he's a mentor. He teaches them the importance of nutrition, physical training. They do a lot of different things outside the barn, as well. And they spend a lot of time together. Well, fast forward, in 2021, Jeremy Pena, by this time has moved to the Houston Astros, becomes the MVP in the National League Championship Series and in the World Series. He's a world champion. He's still one of their star players. But he basically was the mentor to these guys at the barn in Bradley. Okay? Now, an interesting part of that story was Jeremy Pena, as he becomes more well-known and popular. He's a young guy, good-looking guy. Obviously, people see opportunities for endorsements. And there's a grocery chain, it'd be like a Hannaford or Shaw's in Texas called HEB. It's frankly, it's Hannaford on steroids. It is. I've been in one of them. They're monstrous stores. And HEB decides to work with Alex Bregman, who was with the Red Sox this last year, a star for the Astros, and Jeremy Pena to promote. There's Alex Bregman at the time to promote the salsa that they're trying to sell. And they had this really hot salsa that they wanted to name for Alex Bregman. They called it Breggy Bomb. Really hot salsa. And Alex Bregman was a hit bombs, hit home runs, so it really fit. And you can actually go on YouTube, you can watch the video of the commercial that they shot. And you'll see in the video, Alex Bregman, while he's talking about the hot salsa, Jeremy Pena is next to him, juggling the jars of salsa. He's got 3 or 4 jars, he's juggling salsa. Now you may say, what does that have to do with anything? We talked before about our man Jake Reynes. One of Jake's hobbies is juggling. While they are taking time off from their workouts in Bradley, he taught Jeremy Pena how to juggle. And so that skill gets translated into a commercial in Houston, okay? What's also interesting is that Jake Reynes ends up, when he graduates from Maine, he has an additional year of eligibility. One of the gifts of COVID was that college players were given an additional year to play. I was a college AD last year on the interim at St. Joe's College in Maine, and we had a lot of kids who were 5th-year players. It was something the NCAA gave back to them. And actually, it was interesting, after he got his degree from Orono, he decides he wants to go to a bigger league, a more challenging league, and he ends up playing his last year at the University of Houston, 3.2 miles from where Jeremy Pena plays at the Astros facility. So he ends up going to Houston as well. Jake now, I stay in touch with him. He now is trying to sell annuity plans. So if you're looking to try to figure out what to do with your money, I'll give you his phone number. I have it right with me, okay? So that's a college story. You may recognize this guy because he's sitting among you, okay? And I'd like to call a person, to me, one of the best parts of this whole experience, I think Dave will agree, we made so many great friends.
Yeah.
Some of whom we've never met in person, but they're friends. And one of our favorite interviewees, which came by accident, was Mr. Roger Huber, who's here. Roger's an attorney and banker. Nobody here is in trouble, okay? In fact, he's retiring, I understand.
But if you are.
But Roger, if you could join us, because we want to hear about your story. Welcome Roger to the... And Dave, we can co-interview. You do it professionally, so maybe we can talk about how Roger got into this picture.
Yeah, well, so Gary, as we were collecting data and stories, and we put something out on Facebook. We were just talking about this.
We're trying to get
trying to get more local stories, and there's got to be more that maybe people just aren't, telling us. And Roger and I connected, and we set up a Zoom interview. And again, those Zoom interviews, when they first started, I had no idea what was going on with those. But we did a Zoom interview, and both of us were in tears during the interview. And I remember signing off and calling Gary and saying, "Oh my God, we got a story here. This is heartwarming. It'll really pull at your heartstrings." Roger's cross-country track team at the time was off the charts, and Roger.
First, that Zoom call. So when David said that there were going to be 3 things, one of them was going to be tears. He was probably talking. I'm sure he was talking about me. This whole story, this whole period it continues to be difficult for me. That Zoom call was probably one of the most special personal engagements I have ever had. I didn't know David. I'm sure I've seen him on the news before. He's out of the area. Great interviewer. Asked me the questions. We walked through my story, my team's story, not mine, my team's story. And then what I knew of David was the passing of his wife Lisa, and I asked a few questions. I had been in tears. David ended up in tears, and it's just a friendship that has grown ever since. So, if there's a silver lining for me, it's my opportunity to meet these two outstanding gentlemen, and an opportunity to tell the story. I don't know what you'd like me to do. I can tell you.
We'll get some slides going to pop up, and they'll help you tell your story.
Okay.
So, first of all, Roger is the head coach of the Bangor cross country team. Okay, if you've been in Bangor High School, okay, and in that gym, that Red Berry gym, there are a lot of banners. It's impressive. In fact, the last time I was in there were 98. I know there are more now, but the first time I was in there were 98. Although I had been in there to take my SATs. Now I wasn't paying attention to banners. I was trying to get the answers right back in 1978 or whenever it was. But it's an impressive thing. And Roger, you had a great team coming in 2020.
And we're primarily talking about our boys team. The one thing about boys in cross country, probably boys in most sports, is they get better as they get older. They get stronger. The testosterone favors them. They develop muscles. They just get better. So I had a group of young men come in freshman year, a little bit sophomore year, that exhibited great potential. I mean, they were good then, but I knew that things were only going to get better, and they did. So they were juniors and seniors. Well, they were juniors and seniors when the story takes place, but they finished second twice at the state championship meet. 2018, 2019, 2020 was going to be our year.
And if I can interrupt, Roger, your runners have told me after finishing second for the second year in a row, he gets on the bus, they're all sitting there, he says one thing, 364 more days.
Yes, that is true. And of all those banners, it's important to know, of all those banners that hang, I think there's 108 that hang at Bangor High School, not a single one of them is for cross country.
Yeah.
Not a single one. And that was, so I coached for 15 years at the middle school level, moved up, have now coached for 9 years at the high school level. But that was my goal. That was my commitment to Gary's counterpart, Steve Benedestein, the athletic director of Bangor High School, that I will create a program that gets you a state championship and finally a banner on that wall.
And Roger, that's a special number.
So as we lead into cross country is one of those sports where you build it over time. You can't just start in September and do well. You have to build things over the summer. You have to build endurance over the summer. So this special group of young men, and really there were 7 primarily, but 14 team members sort of got together, ran over the summer months with a plan that I developed, but they put in the time, they put in the effort, and between pretty much the 14 of them, they ran over the summer months 11,258 miles.
Can we give them a perspective before you continue the story? That is the distance of going to New York, Los Angeles 4.5 times. Or for those who want to get a greater scale, it's literally halfway the circumference of the earth that those kids ran.
This is not making me feel better. Nothing's going to make me feel better except the chance to tell all you the story. They did it on their own. This is a time in the summer months when we are not allowed to have contact with the team. The Bangor High School forbids it. I was not allowed to have any contact, so we started the summer season with a big Zoom call and said, you know, guys, this is our chance. This is our time. I think we can do this. We certainly have the potential. You're going to have to work to get there. They were obviously willing to do so, and we would check in periodically, Zoom calls once a week. We also had an electronic log form so that they could log their miles, so I knew what they were doing. I knew what they were accomplishing. But 11,000, you would have no reason to know this. High school kids do not run over the summer. Even the best of the best, it's impossible, nearly impossible to get them off the couch and get out for a run, especially during a hot summer day. That is just a remarkable number and a tribute to what they thought they could accomplish.
One of the pleasures of my experience is Dave did the interview with Roger, and then once I did my own research to find out the names of these young men, I actually went out and interviewed 5 of them, and their stories are here. I still have the videos of our calls. I started Roger and to share those with him so he can hear what they said. Would you be willing to talk to us about who these young men were briefly?
Absolutely.
We'll put a picture up. We'll start with Dan.
So this is Dan McCarthy. Dan is, first of all, Dan's dad, Joe, was probably the best athlete ever to come through Bangor High School. Played for UVM hockey and I think was drafted by the pros until he had a career-ending injury. Dan, extremely talented, the best runner that Bangor High School has ever seen. Hard worker, injury prone, currently runs for Georgetown.
Wow.
Then there's the savant.
Gordon Dorr, goofy as could be. Nobody grew more in 4 years than this young man. Driven, a real student of the game. Goofy as could be. He was the comedian on the team. Incredibly hard worker. Ran for Colby.
And he ended up actually penning a letter to Governor Mills asking for this whole thing to end. He wanted the opportunity to compete. He actually, and I've read it, it's a very eloquent letter.
When MPA pulled the plug on the state championship meet, not to spoil the story, he did. He wrote a beautiful letter to the governor, not expecting anything, but just to make him feel better, I think.
And then a guy who had like major family connections at Bangor High School. You can't get more connected than this family.
This is James Fahey, James's dad, James's uncle, both connected to, and brothers have gone through Bangor High School. James joined us sort of late in the game. I told you that we finished second 2018 and 2019 at the state championship. If he had been with us in 2019, we would have won the state championship. But he played football. He was a little guy. He was no bigger than me. He was no bigger than me. But football was his thing, and we didn't get him until a little bit later in the game. Exceptionally committed to the cause. And I will tell you that the day they pulled the plug on the state championship meet, he was at home. He had been a close contact, was pulled from the team, couldn't run, but was still doing the same workout that we were doing, even though there was no chance that he was going to run in that state championship meet.
Never cut corners. He always put in the work, is my understanding.
Always. Ran for Maine and is now coaching with me at Bangor High School.
Love this guy. Fritz.
Love this guy. I don't know what to say. Fritz, loved a challenge, would do anything, was always up for anything. The start of the season, he did a 24-hour run with Simon that you'll probably see next. He would do anything. Incredibly hard worker, and just dependable, reliable.
And my understanding is that he and Simon lived on opposite ends of town in Bangor. They would run toward each other, meet at Essex Street, do their workout, and then go home. That was their routine.
Yeah, if that were all that they did, that would be great. What they also tended to do was get off Essex Street and go out into the woods and go bushwhacking, and sometimes they'd come back and their shoes would be mud up to their legs just because they wanted to do something different.
And then there's Simon. And we got a picture of Simon and Fritz on the right side. But
Very best of friends, and I will tell you, Fritz, standout crew at
Tufts, right?
Tufts,
Yeah.
and Simon, standout crew at Williams. Simon, brightest kid I've ever coached, biggest heart, and he. Sometimes it's hard for kids; they're just not just mentally developed enough. I've discovered to push themselves to their limits. Simon was at that point. Simon would push himself right to the very limit, and you knew every single time that when he crossed that finish line, it was never a coach, I think I could have done more. It was coach, I did all I could.
the thing I was interested in learning about Simon, and Coach Hubert talked about being second twice. Simon was like the king of runner-up. He was second in track and field in the race walk, that was his track event, second in the state. He competed as a swimmer. Every event he was in, the best he was second in the state. He was the captain of the Bangor Quiz Bowl team that was on TV, a high school quiz. They were in the finals against Brewer and lost. Okay? He was second in everything. This was his chance to win. Coach Hubert, let's move forward to 3 days before the state championship meet. The MPA is planning to have a state championship meet. There have been some qualifying events, your team obviously being the prohibitive favorite to have qualified. And you had worked out on this piece of real estate located on Griffin Road, just down from the old Capehart complex that Bangor had acquired, and it became your workout space, the proving grounds. And you guys were here that day.
Yeah, that had to have been a Monday. But I need to take just a quick step back. On we had qualified for state championship meet. We ran what's called a regional meet where they have the northern teams compete together. Half of those go to states. The southern Maine teams compete against each other, and half of those go to states. We did that. It was an odd race. Only half of our teams were there. They rotated us in, all sorts of precautions to get us that far, but we dominated. We dominated. I think we dominated. I mean, it was clear that I don't think I'm just saying that. It was clear that we had the very best team in the state, and this was going to be our year. Saturday, that was the following Saturday. They had a junior varsity race at Saxel Park in Bangor to give those people. The varsity runners had a lot of opportunities. I mean, more opportunities than the JV runners during the season. So they wanted to give the JV runners a chance. So they sent them out on this course at Saxel Park. It was blistering hot, probably the same day.
It's the same day
of that soccer.
And if we can tag team our stories here, they up until that point, you were allowed to compete without masks. You had to practice, or actually you could even practice without masks. But like if you're together in huddles, talking to coach, the mask goes on. They changed the guideline the 2 days before this. In fact, my girls ran their qualifier without masks, but the rules changed literally while on the bus for our qualifier, and our boys had to wear the mask. So those kids have to wear masks. It's just come out.
So our varsity boys on that day, on that Saturday, they were at the track with my assistant coach, and she brought a variety of different types of masks to try them out, because they knew they were going to be racing on Tuesday for a state championship. That was the hope. So she brought a variety of masks to try out. I went to Saxel Park to watch this JV meet to see how the mask mandate worked. It was an unequivocal disaster. I was at the 2 mile mark. Kids were, you were talking, you were supposed to wear the mask over your nose and over your mouth. Many of the kids had the mask down below their nose. Some of them had down below their chin. Some of them had them in their hands. There were a couple that had it wearing it appropriately, but they were all suffering. And unfortunately, it was a hot day. And I think if it had been 20 degrees cooler, we wouldn't be having. My story, our story, Bangor's story would have been different.
And to make it worse, a representative from the Maine Principal Association who lives in Hamden
Yes.
happened to be there watching this.
Yeah, and it was just awful. And I sat there at the 2-mile mark and I thought, how can you enforce this? I mean, it's a huge advantage when you're running to have, both your mouth and your nose open to get your oxygen in. It's a huge disadvantage to cover those up. And, cross country, you're off out in the woods, people can't see you. There's not referees, you're not on a track so that people see you every time you come around. You're out in the woods. And, human nature is just, I gotta get some air, I've gotta get some air. So that was a disaster. The MPA officials saw that, knew it was a disaster. As it been for the entire season, I was in knots. I just did not have a really good feeling about what was to come. So Monday we're having practice. We're doing one final tune-up. I think the state meet was supposed to be on Tuesday. I think they moved
Well, we
it.
did the boys and girls separate days, and Veterans Day fell in there,
right.
so we're taking advantage of that day.
Right, so we're out of here on Monday, where we've got this beautiful place that the school built for us. They knocked out a bunch of weeds and then we ran out of it. They didn't really spend a lot of tax dollars on it. In fact, I mowed it for the first 2 years. So we're out there and we know that the MPA is meeting. We know that they're meeting to talk about what happened on Saturday and to make a decision about the state meet. And the call came in. The call came in that they were canceling the state meet.
If I can allow him to get his composure, to give him a chance to collect a little bit. If you can picture this, the thing about the story, which is powerful as you've already heard, but they did continue their workout. This team was strong to the edge. And think back to James Fahey. Remember the young man with the Maine shirt who can't participate at all, okay? He doesn't know this news yet, but he's in his driveway doing the workout that was prescribed over at the proving grounds. And one thing I learned from talking to Mr. Van Edestein, the reason he couldn't participate was that he was in a study hall where there was one kid had a positive test or what have you. And in fact, the study hall was in 2 different rooms. He wasn't even in the same room as the kid, but it was one study hall. So everybody had to go home. It was weird, sad, tragic, and you've got to figure out how to pick up the pieces, not having been prepared for this.
And it was obviously this is not my story. This is their story. They continued the workout. They did the workout. We had our traditional race between me and my assistant coach, Lindsay Hackett. I don't think it's important who won that race. I think I can keep that to myself.
Well, I think you've already let us know.
Well, I might have, but I'm not confirming one way or the other. She was good. These kids had put in so much effort. 11,258 miles. But even before that, it was the 2 years of coming in in second place. So those were huge accomplishments for them, and they really outperformed. Those weren't disappointments. Those were things that we celebrated. But this was their year, and it turned out not to be. But and we still talk about this. We still have a group text, just the 5, 6, 7 of us, including myself and Lindsay. We still talk about this, and this is still a moment in our lives that still affects me, but affects me for them. They just put so much effort into this. But the silver lining in addition to me getting to meet these two wonderful gentlemen, was that, and I really think the reason that these boys ran 11,258 miles is because everything was out of their control during this period. They had no control over it. Everything was being dictated to them, and they had one. This is their one thing. Fortunately, it was running. Fortunately, it wasn't a sport like soccer or basketball where you have to play with somebody else. I mean, this is the one thing that they had control over, and they took full advantage of that.
And the story doesn't end there. We talked about the idea that there are silver linings. That the sun does rise again. And one of my favorite parts of the story, you may notice, you probably saw when you looked at this photo of the proving grounds, the day that Roger was describing, that sad day, that sign wasn't there. You can actually go on YouTube and watch Roger's banquet. I've had a chance to watch it begin to end. It is an amazing experience. The kids decided they were going to give a gift back to Bangor High School, to the sport, and to their coach. They got together and they constructed this sign that would be placed up in the proving grounds. Take a trip I'm going today on the way back. I'm going past and check this place out. These kids built this sign. One of the girls on the team, Dan McCarthy's sister, Erin, did the stenciling. They got the Bangor colors, they painted the sign. And then in my interview with Simon Sokolow, he said, he goes, we got together, we found a way to get it into the auditorium to present to Coach Huber. It was pretty monstrous. He wanted to make sure it was sturdy. And he goes, oh, I forgot one thing, Simon told me. He goes, we all signed it. He goes, I was the first one. Simon finally wasn't second. He was the first one to sign, okay?
Simon would be disappointed to know that I had to paint over the back of it.
The signatures, I actually looked for some, the signatures are gone. But Roger, thank you for telling that story.
Well, and I'll just say that this is not life size. This is life size, and it's on these massive posters. And I've never been more touched by a gift from athletes than that recognition.
To close our part of this before we take some questions, we've been very blessed. Roger, in the book, Roger gives us a wonderful testimonial. It was his, after having read the book, he was one of the first people we shared the text with. We let him take a look at, like, did we get this story right? And I think he appreciated how it was written, because we try to write with some empathy, find moments of humor we can, but also our goal was to tug at you when you're reading it. We wanted you to understand who these kids were. That's why we took the time to introduce them. But Roger was one of many people that we reached out to, and Dave did most of the work on this in terms of testimonials that you can find in the book. People that read the book, portions of the book are in the book, and we'll just put a few pictures of it.
Yeah, Jeremy Swayman, who's a great goalie at the University of Maine, he's got a story when he was at Maine. They were getting ready for the Hockey East quarterfinals, and Maine had the team. They obviously had the goalie that year, and then saw their season come to an abrupt halt during the pandemic. But we had a chance to catch up with Jeremy. Really fun little story. So we were just finding our way out of COVID. Just at the beginning. Danielle, who you met, we were at Dick's Sporting Goods in South Portland, and I get a call from a Boston number on my phone, and it's Michael Talvo from the Boston Bruins. He had Jeremy Swayman in Alaska, that was Jeremy's friend, to do the interview. And I said to my daughter, go ahead, I'll join you in Dick's. And I stayed outside. We did the interview that was recorded, and Jeremy has got a great story in the book. And that picture with him looking at part of the book, he was at a golf tournament in Falmouth a couple of years ago, the Drive for Kids charity event. And so we gave him a copy, and he was very, very grateful, and just a wonderful human being. And now he's having a great season so far with the Bruins.
We interviewed this guy as well.
Yeah, Roger was talking about the masks. Cooper Flag, everyone knows who Cooper Flag is.
The worst mask violator in Maine.
I don't know how, I don't know why the kids were wearing masks at that point, but that's another story for another day.
And Dave, by the way, I got COVID that day. I came down with COVID that day of that game.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Did you go to the game or
I
not?
couldn't, I was sick.
Oh, so I've never seen the Civic Center, the Cross Insurance Arena alive like that in my life. This young freshman who is going to rewrite the basketball, journals in Maine, took on Falmouth. Falmouth I'll tell you what, Falmouth played them tough. But Cooper, that was the, it's funny. I covered the NBA draft this year. Never covered an NBA draft in my life. But of course, a kid from Newport, Maine was going to go number 1 overall. So we're in Brooklyn, and the NBA, this liaison from the NBA was very nice to me. And, I'm from Portland, and they don't care. Now it's the big, bright lights, and, I'm small potatoes, and I get it. That's fine. She said to me after the draft, Cooper had done interviews at ESPN. Actually, Cooper's on the stage after he was drafted, and I was going second on the questions. This guy asked, I don't even know where he was from. He said, "Hey Cooper," and he asked about how if he thought the draft lottery was rigged because Dallas had the lowest chance, or one of the lowest chances, to get the number 1 pick. And I'm thinking to myself, thank you, God. To follow that it's almost like put the ball on the tee and swing away. So I went second, asked, congratulated Cooper. Anyway, we get to the one-on-ones now. So Cooper talks to the media, does a big thing for ESPN. Now he's doing the Dallas stations. And the lady from the NBA comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, Portland." She didn't even call me Dave. She goes, "Hey, Portland, one question." So I'm like, oh my God. So I grab my photographer. We're in this little cutout, and Cooper's there with the hat and the suit. I said, "Now this is it. You go. One question, that's it." They had the big cane for the hook. And I said, "Well, the last time I was standing next to this young man, he was carrying a gold ball from the Nokomis Warriors. He led the Nokomis Warriors." So right away, and Cooper knew who I was, but right away it was that Maine connection that brought him from, bright lights in big city. Now he's back in Newport, Maine, leading a team to an undefeated season and a gold ball. And then he went on to Montverde Academy, won a national championship there. Of course, we know what he did at Duke. Covered his game at BC when he was playing for Duke. We interviewed people that came from the furthest points of Maine. They drove in the early morning to come down to Boston College, Chestnut Hill, Aroostook County. And Cooper was blown away when I told him, people drove 8 hours, 9 hours to see you play.
And I was at that game. I have a friend who, his son-in-law is at the IMG Academy, a big basketball factory in Florida. So I was at the game with my best friend, and we were sitting on the Boston College bench. We're on the floor, on the bench. And he was wearing Duke apparel. I'm like, "Bob, this is probably not a good idea. We're not, these folks are BC folks," but it was a circus. It was
a circus. But going back to the Gary, I don't know if you get the picture of Cooper doing the Zoom, but I thought it took months, and I kept telling Gary, "I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him." Wanted to talk to him about that championship game, wearing the mask, how much of an obstacle it was. And he did about an 8-minute Zoom interview, and it was great. It was part of the book, and
we believe our book is the one to tell his story first. I don't think there's anybody else that's really told it.
Actually, this is I'm not really an author. We just kind of hammered out interviews, and Gary's a phenomenal writer. But what we did was we unearthed. It was almost like pulling a weed. You pull one weed and you're like, oh my God, and then you're pulling more and more and more, and they're popping up everywhere. So that's what it was.
You're not a weed, Roger, by the way.
Yeah, no. You're far. But it was one after another, and we just kept chasing it. But this is the one book in Maine that does tell these stories about survival of the pandemic, and just regarding sports. Joan Bernard Samuelson, a very good friend of mine, Olympic gold medalist. Funny story here.
Well, you gotta tell us.
I said to Gary, I said, hey, what chapter is the Beach to Beacon on? I want to brush up on that. And
what happens when we have testimonials, the idea is that you just read a chapter, a few pages, and write about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Roger read it cover to cover. In fact, I know he did because he sent me an email. But that's the idea. Jeremy Swim, just read about yourself and just give us something we put on Amazon now. So he finally got Joni, and he said, hey, Gary, can you send me the chapter on the Beach to Beacon race, which she's the head of, so she can do her testimonial? I'm like, Dave, we don't have any chapter on the Beach to Beacon race. And I wrote this pregnant pause on the other end of the phone. He's like, what are we going to do? And so apparently this weekend I'm writing a chapter on the Beach to Beacon race, which I did. And so he was able to get it to her.
He did all his writing up at Sugarloaf, which was great. Joni, phenomenal. She went through it, gave us a great testimony. We have Susan Collins, Roger. I think, no, I'm not saying this because Roger's here. Roger's is extra special. But Joan Benoit, Jeremy Swayman, and it was just it was a phenomenal project that Gary said that we took about 2 years to hammer through.
Yeah, these are some of the lessons we learned. One thing, and I think Roger hit on this as well, despite all this ugliness and the challenges, there was a lot of kindness. The Ben Guite story, the gesture of Roger's runners towards him. There's a lot of kindness, and it's easy to find ugliness, and it was not fun. I'm not saying I want to go do it again, but that was what we were trying to do, and it really prompted us to change our title, because originally we started to tell these stories like there were actually some really nice special things that happened here. We learned that sports are important for people. Okay, Roger in his testimonial, one of his comments is, this is more than just about sports. It's more than just about sports. We learned about the creativity, whether it be with buckets, masks, seating, cardboard fans. People were doing anything they could. And I think the one thing that we don't know is what's the impact going to be on our kids for the long term. That's what Dave and I both agree. That's the one unresolved question. Psychologists, sociologists will be writing about that in other books that are way above our pay scale and our expertise. But that's something that we certainly are concerned. Now, Dave, as a parent with 2 kids going through this, as a parent, I'm sure you worried about that too.
Yeah, and Drew, my son, played college hockey for Worcester State University, and he used his COVID year. He was captain his last year, but he had all sorts of shoulder problems and everything. But perseverance and the one thing I always subscribe to this. I think you can learn a lot more about losing than winning. I really do, and I know that sounds kind of crazy. Everyone wants to win in life. Everyone wants to be number one or whatever you do. But I think losing can teach us a lot, and teaches us how to kind of come back and battle back and be even better.
And I think your daughter's story, Dave, is proof of that point. Maybe Danielle Eads' 3-pointer is the most important shot that was taken in Maine, the most important sports moment, because for your family certainly was. It was the last time your wife got to watch her play.
Yep.
And I know when I found this video, Dave and I were doing we were in one of the bookstores doing a signing, and I showed it to him. He went, I need that link. That link is important. That's what you just saw is important to him. So it's important. And everybody has their own shot that's important, as Roger has shown as well.
Yeah, I just think there's a reason for everything in life. I really do. And she could have easily bricked that 3-pointer, and it still would have been special because she took the last shot. But Lisa got to see her swish a 3 in a game that really didn't mean a whole lot. But for us, it was symbolic.
But as I've got to meet Danielle and know her, if you watch that video again, which we won't pull up, she sort of like stalks off the court. And I'm interpreting that she's competitive. She's upset she lost.
She was. I could tell you a side story of a game at Hebron a long time ago. This was field hockey. She was a very fiery competitor. The one thing I told my kids when they played athletics, I said, it's not, and I mean this so sincerely. I said, yeah, we want you to win. I said, the only thing Mom and Dad ask is that you play the score 0-0 the whole game. What does that mean? Play with effort, play with heart, play the right way, play fair, play clean, and always give an effort. And as long as that happens, driving to Vermont, driving to Exeter, New Hampshire, driving to Philly, which we've done a few times, doesn't matter. Just play with heart, play with effort. And they both did.
We teach in the high school world that you can control two things, your effort and your attitude,
Yep.
which is what Dave just said. We've been very fortunate. We've had an opportunity to get the support of all sorts of retailers throughout Maine. Our book is available locally here in Bangor. It's at the Briar Patch. They've been wonderful to work with. We may actually be doing an engagement there at some point down the road, but we're everywhere. Handcrafted Link in my hometown. They've been supported. Sherman's, we're everywhere. And some little stores here and there, including Moody's Diner. Okay? And they were kind to take some books. We also have some books available for sale at a discounted rate today if anybody's interested. But we thought we'd just close by giving you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. We have a few minutes. I know Dave has to take off. He's going to meet at the station this afternoon. But if you have any questions, we've done a lot of talking. Dave, me, or Roger, things you need. I mean, we just give you, we scratched the surface in this book, folks. We haven't told you everything. Roger didn't tell you everything either. There's more to the story. So, anybody have any questions?
The first one's always the hardest one. Once the first one happens, then they start to.
One of my best friends from high school, I just see back in the corner there, Mr. Ron McComb. You have a question? He and I go way back to 1970 when we were third grade. I didn't see you there, Ron, today. You have a question?
I'm trying to think of one, but
All right.
at the moment I don't.
But it's yeah.
I think it's just amazing to me. I'm a retired teacher. My daughter ran cross country. It's like so many things that connects here for me. But when you think about all of the hardships and everything that people were going through, the kids, the families, the coaches, everybody, it affected everyone.
It did.
And to try to find that silver lining, I'll tell you, has been a struggle. And even now, I think back on it. Probably one of the hardest times in my life personally, because you were not connected with your friends. You weren't supposed to be out and about. You went to the grocery store, they gave you a number, you could go in. If you touched it, you bought it. You didn't put it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
All of this was stuff I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. And then how that affects families. Silver lining is families were home together. They were
Yes.
eating meals together. There was all of that. They were playing board games.
Yes.
And kids
Taking
that,
walks.
yeah. And that, kids didn't realize, what game is that? Oh, it's a game that mom and dad were playing. Oh, that's kind of fun. It's like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
And then for the kids and down the road, what will be the effects? And it's not going to be great, I don't think. You don't get that time back from high school or whatever. And then my daughter works in healthcare, and that's another whole piece. And what are the effects of that? And wow. So
And mental health was 2 years of isolation is pretty
yeah.
pretty damaging.
So I think the effects are long term for all of us, whether you're the children in school or adults trying to deal with that.
You think about it, you make a really nice point, ma'am, in that, again, I'm a history guy. History always has marking points, like there's a generation that references Pearl Harbor. There's a generation that references the Kennedy assassination. There's a generation that references 9/11. I think our current group of kids, or the ones that are now in college, what have you, and I hear it this day, they talk about before COVID, since COVID. It's a marking point in our history, in our lives, very much like all those other incidents. Cody, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I would say, I would ask, how close to pre-COVID times do you think we are in modern, like in 2025? Is there a little bit more sense of normalcy in sports now, or
I think so.
is it like in the middle?
We were just talking about that. Gary seems to think it would be hard to ever get back to 2019, but I think we're getting close. It's, covering all those games last weekend for me, it was just great being on the sideline and running up and down. And I think we're getting close.
It's I would say this, it's very different. I think it's evolved to some degree. For example, Dave got to watch, and you got to watch his daughter take her last high school shot because they were doing a live stream broadcast because fans couldn't go. Okay, now live stream is pretty much commonplace everywhere. So it has to cut back a little bit on the in-person attendance because people can watch remotely from home. So in many schools, it's almost an expectation you have that live streaming opportunity, which is a blessing because relatives in other states or places can watch. Thornton Academy, where I work, is a very wide network that goes worldwide of Thornton alums. It's also, they have international boarding students there. So there are people all over the globe that watch the football games on the live stream. So that live streaming has made it evolve. I think there is more attention to hygiene than there was before. I think people are still using the hand sanitizers and that type of thing. I think we're more attuned to that. And maybe it's just because we don't want to catch a cold. That was one good thing about COVID. I didn't have a cold, which I usually get 3 a year. I didn't have a cold for 2 years.
Yeah.
Until I got COVID myself the weekend of the Cooper Flag championship game. But it's evolved, I would say.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And
We do have, if anybody's interested in obtaining a copy of Stolen Seasons, like I said, there are retailers, you can go online. We have a website, stolenseasons.com. We also, at a reduced rate, the normal price is $27.59 retail. We do them for $25 in person, so a little bit of a discount. Certainly willing to etch our name if that's something to be of value to you. I don't take that for granted. I don't know if anybody would want my autograph unless it's somebody I owe money to. But we certainly would be willing to do that for you, and we just appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks, Ron, for showing up.
thanks, Roger. Thank you for everything.